In the dazzling yet dangerously tempting world of WWE, not everyone can keep their balance under the spotlight and the crushing pressure behind the curtain. Many superstars have fallen into the dark spiral of drugs, alcohol, and addiction, sacrificing both their health and careers. But what makes them truly admirable isn't just the championships or the victories inside the ring. It's their extraordinary strength to rise again from their own darkness. Today, we'll explore the powerful and inspiring journeys of 10 WWE wrestlers who overcame addiction and changed their lives forever. Let's get started. Wrestling Sphere, go! Lex Luger, from the total package to rebuilding his life. Before becoming one of the most recognizable faces in professional wrestling, Lex Luger was a promising football player with a bright future ahead. When he transitioned to WWE, then WWF, and WCW, he quickly stood out with his perfect physique, chiseled muscles, and confident charisma, often described as the second coming of Hulk Hogan. Many even believed that Luger had the potential to surpass Hogan himself, the untouchable icon of that era. But behind the bright lights and roaring crowds, his personal life was collapsing under the weight of addiction and tragedy. At the height of his fame, Luger began to spiral into a life of constant partying, heavy drinking, and drug use. What started as a way to unwind after grueling matches soon became an uncontrollable dependency. His addiction took over his mind, pushing him toward destructive choices. Then, in 2003, tragedy struck. His girlfriend, Elizabeth Hewlett, known to fans as Miss Elizabeth, died from a drug overdose in their apartment. The news sent shockwaves through the wrestling world, leaving Luger consumed by guilt and despair. Not long after, he faced a string of legal troubles, including charges for drug possession and domestic issues. In 2005, after violating his probation, Luger was sentenced to 4 months in jail. Ironically, that confinement became the turning point of his life. Stripped of his freedom, he finally confronted his demons and made the choice to change. After his release, Luger completely turned his life around. He got clean, found faith, and began sharing his story to help others avoid the same mistakes. Today, Lex Luger may no longer be the total package of the 1990s, but he stands as a symbol of resilience, a man who conquered his greatest opponent, himself. As Luger once said in an interview, "I used to think I could control everything. Fame, money, women, even drugs. But now I know, no one wins when they play with fire. Only when I let go, did I truly become free." Jake Roberts, from the depths of addiction to a symbol of redemption. Jake, the Snake, Roberts was once considered one of the greatest masters of psychological storytelling in professional wrestling. He didn't need to shout or show off. With just a cold stare, a gravelly voice, and haunting promos, Jake could command silence from an entire arena. But behind that eerie calm was a soul tormented by drugs, alcohol, and a dark past. Roberts reached the peak of his career in the late 1980s, but that was also when addiction began to consume him. He tried countless times to break free, yet every attempt led to an even deeper relapse. Friends and colleagues believed Jake would never escape the cycle of self-destruction. However, his faith and desire to rebuild his life gradually rekindled hope within him. In 1996, Jake returned to the WWF a changed man, openly declaring that his faith in Jesus Christ had saved him. The company even made his faith part of a storyline, which unintentionally gave birth to one of wrestling's most iconic moments when Steve Austin mocked Jake's sermons with the legendary line, "Austin 3:16. Still, in real life, Roberts hadn't fully escaped his demons. Years of struggle dragged him to rock bottom, as seen in the documentary Beyond the Mat, where fans witnessed a broken, lonely, and regretful Jake, the Snake. The 2005 DVD Pick Your Poison further revealed the nightmare of his upbringing, a childhood scarred by abuse, neglect, and trauma that haunted him for decades. By 2012, his story seemed over, until a friend from the past reached out, Diamond Dallas Page. Page took Jake into his home and helped him heal through a strict fitness and meditation program. Over 18 months, Roberts lost over 50 pounds, became completely sober, and regained clarity and purpose. Then, in 2014, the world watched with emotion as Jake, the Snake Roberts walked onto the stage of the WWE Hall of Fame to a thunderous ovation. After years in darkness, the Snake had finally shed his skin, no longer a symbol of downfall, but a living testament to resilience and redemption. Sting, the icon of strength, faith, and salvation. To wrestling fans, Sting has always represented the perfect superstar, strong, honorable, and almost scandal-free. During his golden years in WCW, he was seen as the very heart and soul of the company, a symbol of loyalty and pride. That's why many were shocked to learn that behind the paint and fame, Sting once battled a silent but ruthless enemy, painkiller addiction. Years of physical punishment left his body in constant pain. At first, he used painkillers just to cope and keep performing. But gradually, the pills took control. The dependency, combined with the relentless pressure of fame, drained his spirit. When his marriage fell apart and his wife left, Sting realized he had lost everything that truly mattered. In that darkest moment, he found light. Sting decided to surrender, turning to faith and believing that Jesus Christ had saved his life. Without rehab or a long recovery process, just one choice, one unshakable belief, he broke free from addiction. Sting once said, "Some people need 12 steps, but for me, it only took one step toward Jesus." Since then, he has lived a life of peace, humility, and inspiration. In 2016, Sting was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, a fitting honor not only for his legendary career but also for his courageous journey from darkness to redemption. Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, and his spectacular redemption. Shawn Michaels, known to fans as the Heartbreak Kid, was one of the most gifted and charismatic performers in WWE history. He had everything a legend could ask for: elite in-ring skills, unmatched confidence, and the rare ability to captivate an audience. But behind the glittering spotlight was a wild lifestyle fueled by alcohol, drugs, and reckless partying that nearly destroyed his entire career. From his early days with Marty Jannetty in the Rockers, Shawn was noticed not only for his talent but also for his rebellious attitude. WWF even fired the team just weeks after signing them due to unprofessional behavior. When Michaels began his solo career, he quickly became a top star, but also one of the most difficult people to work with. Endless parties, arrogance, and backstage fights earned him a notorious reputation as the most conceited man in wrestling. The infamous 1995 Syracuse incident told the story clearly. Michaels was brutally attacked outside a bar after a night of heavy drinking. Regardless of the full truth, it reflected the chaotic state of his life at the time. Combined with a devastating back injury in 1998, his career seemed finished. Yet in that dark chapter, Shawn found salvation. He rediscovered his faith, walked away from drugs and alcohol, and completely transformed his life. When he returned to WWE in 2002, he was a changed man, humble, focused, and spiritually grounded. Not only did he perform at an elite level, but he also became a symbol of redemption and inner strength. From a brash rebel to a man of humility, the Heartbreak Kid was reborn, proving that even those who fall the hardest can rise again if they truly seek change. Tully Blanchard, from the Four Horsemen to a messenger of faith. In the 1980s, Tully Blanchard embodied the glamour and arrogance of the legendary stable the Four Horsemen. Alongside Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Ole Anderson, he lived the high life of jets, limousines, and beautiful women, the ultimate symbol of wrestling luxury and excess. But behind the cheers and bright lights was a man losing control to alcohol and drugs. His problems didn't start with the Horsemen, they ran deeper. In an interview, Tully once admitted, "The wrestling lifestyle makes it easy to fall. You just go to the next town, wrestle, party, drink, and do whatever you want." For a 22-year-old with no discipline, it was heaven. 4 years, fame and freedom consumed him, blurring his sense of responsibility and direction. At the peak of his career, Tully signed a $750,000 contract to return to the NWA, a massive deal at the time. But one failed drug test shattered everything. His contract was terminated, his reputation destroyed, and his future in wrestling vanished overnight. It was the lowest point of his life, losing his career, friends, and self-respect all at once. In that moment of despair, his family became his lifeline. After the tragic loss of one of their children, his parents had found faith in God and urged Tully to do the same. He listened, prayed, and made the decision to start over. His faith became the anchor that pulled him out of addiction and gave his life new purpose. Today, Tully Blanchard is no longer the arrogant showman of the wrestling world, but the founder of Tully Blanchard Ministries, where he preaches and helps inmates rebuild their lives through faith. His journey stands as proof that it is never too late to find forgiveness and begin again. Billy Graham, the pioneer, the price, and the symbol of awakening. Before Hulk Hogan or Jesse, the Body Ventura turned muscular showmanship into a wrestling trademark, there was one man who laid the foundation, superstar Billy Graham. Born Wayne Coleman, he was both a devout Christian and a dedicated bodybuilder. From a young age, Graham stood out with his powerful physique, magnetic stage presence, and unmatched ability to command an audience's attention. When he entered professional wrestling, he chose the ring name Billy Graham as a tribute to the famous evangelist. With his flamboyant charisma and cool villain persona, he quickly became a sensation. In 1977, Graham captured the WWF Championship and held it for 11 months, a record-breaking reign at the time, especially as a heel villain, something rarely achieved back then. His platinum blonde hair, massive muscles, and boastful poetic promos would inspire an entire generation of future stars. But fame came with a heavy price. To maintain his near-perfect physique, Graham abused steroids for years, eventually destroying his own body. By the late 1980s, his hips were so damaged that he required replacement surgery. The long-term side effects worsened, forcing him to undergo a liver transplant in 2002 and leaving him in chronic pain for the rest of his life. Although he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2004, his relationship with the company often turned rocky due to his blunt criticism. Still, Billy Graham never hid from his past. Instead, he used it as a warning to younger wrestlers about the dangers of steroids and drug abuse. Superstar Billy Graham was more than a symbol of power and style. He was a man who faced his mistakes head-on, turning regret into wisdom. His legacy reminds the world that glory only matters when it's built on discipline, not destruction. Dustin Rhodes. When WWE's eccentric outlaw defeated his inner demons. Dustin Rhodes, son of the legendary Dusty Rhodes, shocked the wrestling world when he transformed into Goldust, a bizarre, provocative, and androgynous character unlike anything WWE fans had ever seen. Yet beneath the gold paint and eccentric persona was a man quietly losing control to addiction and despair. Ironically, Dustin's worst battles didn't happen during his prime in WWE, but years later, during his TNA run in the late 2000s, when fame had faded and loneliness took its place. He later confessed that he had tried countless times to quit drugs and alcohol, but every attempt ended in failure. Then one rainy night, completely drained physically and emotionally, Dustin crawled outside with his wife and finally broke down, saying, "I give up." In that moment of surrender, he called his father, the late Dusty Rhodes, and asked to enter WWE's rehabilitation program. That call changed everything. From that day forward, Dustin Rhodes rebuilt his life. He stayed sober, embraced discipline, and began using his story to inspire others fighting their own addictions. His transformation led to a moving WWE comeback, where fans didn't just see the return of Goldust, but the redemption of a man who had conquered his own darkness. Today, Dustin Rhodes stands as living proof that even those who've fallen the hardest can rise again, stronger, wiser, and free. Ivan Koloff. From the Russian Bear to a messenger of faith and hope. Ivan Koloff, the Canadian legend, once shook the entire wrestling world when he defeated Bruno Sammartino in 1971 to become the WWF champion. That victory didn't just erupt Madison Square Garden. It carved the name, the Russian Bear, into wrestling history as one of the most shocking moments WWE had ever witnessed. With his powerful build, fierce stare, and brutal fighting style, Koloff was the perfect embodiment of the cold, merciless villain that defined wrestling's golden era. But behind that terrifying image was a man quietly falling apart. As the glory of the territory era began to fade, Koloff turned to alcohol to fill the growing emptiness inside. What started as casual post-show drinks soon became a habit, and eventually, an addiction. He slowly lost control, letting the bottle drag him deeper into despair. By 1994, his health had deteriorated, and his life was spiraling into hopelessness. That was when Ivan Koloff made a life-changing decision. He quit drinking, rediscovered his faith in God, and devoted himself to ministry. From that moment on, he spent the rest of his years preaching and sharing his story, helping others battling temptation and addiction find their way back to peace. From a ferocious Russian bear to a kind-hearted preacher, Ivan Koloff's journey stands as proof that even the strongest can fall, but what truly matters is the strength to rise again and live with a peaceful heart. Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and the addiction beyond drugs. Not every addiction comes from drugs or alcohol. For Ted DiBiase, the man the world knew as the $1 Million Man, His addiction took on another form: indulgence in luxury and the temptations of lust. When Vince McMahon created the arrogant millionaire persona for DiBiase, he wanted the man to live the gimmick both on and off screen. WWE spared no expense to make the illusion real: limousines, five-star hotels, fine dining, and lavish spending. The world believed Ted DiBiase was truly wealthy, and soon, DiBiase himself started to believe it too. But fame and fortune come with endless temptations. While others in the locker room fell to drugs or alcohol, DiBiase was consumed by his addiction to women. He later admitted, "Drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Booze, pills, and women. I drank, but I wasn't an alcoholic. My biggest problem was women." His affairs multiplied until his wife discovered the truth. When DiBiase begged for forgiveness, her response was cold but final: "This is no longer your home." That moment broke him completely. For the first time, the million-dollar man realized he had lost the only thing that truly mattered: his family. With nowhere left to run, DiBiase turned to faith, seeking forgiveness and redemption. Today, Ted DiBiase serves as a minister and motivational speaker, using his story to warn others about the dangers of fame and desire. He is living proof that even someone who once had it all can be saved, if they're brave enough to confront who they truly are. Scott Hall, from the bad guy to a symbol of redemption. Scott Hall was one of the most charismatic and talented wrestlers of the 1990s. With his swaggering persona as the bad guy, he shined as a top star in both WWF and WCW, and later became a founding member of the legendary NWO. But behind that confident image was a man consumed by drugs, alcohol, and the ghosts of his past. Hall was arrested multiple times for violent behavior and drunk driving. His career spiraled out of control, and his body deteriorated under the weight of addiction. Many of his peers admitted they were afraid to be around him because he was often unpredictable and unstable. In one candid interview, Hall confessed, "I didn't think I'd make it to 35. I lost everything, including myself." His life began to change when his close friend Diamond Dallas Page reached out to help. Page took Hall into his home, introduced him to DDP yoga, and guided him through recovery step by step. It wasn't an easy road, but Hall slowly regained his strength and clarity. In 2014, he proudly returned to the spotlight as he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, clean, composed, and standing tall. His closing words that night became legendary: "Bad times don't last, but bad guys do." Though Scott Hall continued to battle health issues later in life, he passed away in peace, remembered not just as a wrestling icon, but as a man who fought his demons and triumphed over them. Eddie Guerrero, from tragedy to a reborn legend. Eddie Guerrero remains one of the most beloved figures in WWE history, but his road to greatness was paved with pain and struggle. Behind his radiant smile and electric performances was a man once broken by addiction to alcohol and drugs. In the late 1990s, Guerrero's downward spiral led to a drunk driving accident that got him fired from WWE. He lost everything: his reputation, his career, and the trust of those closest to him. In an emotional interview, Eddie admitted, "I lost myself. I thought I was invincible, until I saw the disappointment on my wife and children's faces." Determined to change, Guerrero entered rehab, rebuilt his body and mind, and found peace through discipline and faith. When he returned to WWE in 2002, fans didn't just see a stronger performer, they saw a transformed man, humble, honest, and full of heart. Eddie once said, "I died, but God gave me life again." His redemption reached its peak in 2004, when he defeated Brock Lesnar to win the WWE Championship at No Way Out, a moment that moved the entire wrestling world to tears. Though Eddie Guerrero tragically passed away in 2005, his legacy endures as proof that no matter how deep you fall, it's never too late to rise again and shine brighter than ever. These stories prove that even the strongest warriors can fall, but what truly matters is that they rise again. If you found this video inspiring, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any new videos from Wrestling Sphere.